Colorado fans are very excited about this upcoming season, but I have some concerns about this team and what they're going to face in 2023. I'm going to talk about that and more on today's episode of Locked On Buffs.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. And today's episode, I'm going to be talking about my three biggest concerns about Colorado, a prediction about the TCU game, which does not favor Colorado, not my prediction, prediction by 24/7 Sports. And then I'm going to go over the odds, win totals for all the Pac-12 teams and tell you which ones I would take the over on and which ones I take the under on. Again, not a betting service here, just someone who would like to discuss and thinks you could get a good value at certain teams. But before we do, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Buffs your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast on and on YouTube. Okay, let's dive right into my three biggest concerns. I think going into the season, there's a lot of optimism. Obviously, Coach Prime has brought in the number one transfer portal class, a top 25 recruiting class, but he's flipped the roster, which is a good thing because obviously the roster last year was a roster full of guys who may or may not have been helpful in his future vision. So those guys are gone, and he brought some of, I don't know if you could call them his guys, but some filler guys for now until he could recruit all of his guys, but we'll call them his guys for now. So he brought in guys of his choice. How about that? And he brought in number one recruiting class, or number one transfer class, number 20, 25-ish, I think, recruiting class. Let me see. I believe they're top 20. Let's see, 2023 commits. Yes, so here we go. They rank as the number 20 recruiting class, so not bad for someone who's only on the job for like a month, if not less, to be honest. He was only on the job for like 5 minutes before early signing day. So they got transfer class recruiting, all these guys. There's hype around the program, but I still think there's some room for concern moving forward. Obviously, their strength of schedule is going to be tough. That's not really a concern. That's not something they could fix. These are things that I think they will probably have to worry about as time goes on. First one, let me dive right into it. I think the run game, while Dylan Edwards is going to be probably a star in college football, he's a freshman and he's very undersized. So I don't know if they're going to want to kind of feed him a lot at this stage in his career as a true freshman. Kavosi Smoke, he was a backup, so it's not saying that he can't be good, but I think he's not going to be used to a lot of touches, and who knows if with more volume of touches, if he does better or not. And then there's also Anthony Hankerson, who, pretty good. It showed out during the spring game, one of the few guys that's left over from last year's roster, but are they going to be enough? Those three, that committee, also got Charlie Offerdahl, the walk-on, who I think will be a scholarship running back eventually. But are they going to be effective enough to kind of make a defenses fear the running game? That I don't know. That's why I put, when I was talking about the 5 most important transfers that Colorado needs to land over on my Athlon site, that they needed to land McCaskill out of Houston. He would be easily running back one right away. Kind of adds different dynamic than each one of these guys. Obviously, Dylan Edwards can move out to wide receiver. Kavosi Smoke's more of like a run you over, run past you type of guy. And then Anthony Hankerson's somewhere in the middle. I think Alton McCaskill would probably be the best weapon and maybe make defenses fear Colorado's run game. And so he tweeted the little clock emoji recently. And so I feel like that means he's going to announce something soon. But obviously, only time will tell. I'm going to check his little check his Twitter to see if there's been any updates, because 17 hours ago he tweeted the little clock emoji, and who knows what that means. If that means he's wants to know what time it is, or if he's got a commitment coming soon. But that would be probably one of the biggest gets for Colorado this offseason, to be honest. And so, yeah, is the running back room going to be effective enough to make defenses worry about them? Or are defenses kind of going to be able to just ignore the run game and play the pass more? Because obviously they have a lot of weapons to cover, and Jimmy Horn, Shadur is going to be thrown to Jimmy Horn, Xavier Weaver, Travis Hunter, Willie Gaines, whoever it may be. maybe Montana Lamonius Craig. We saw yesterday on social media that Shedeur is trying to lure him back to Colorado. Okay, second concern. How does this team handle adversity? I feel like when it's all cool and fine when you bring in a number one transfer class, but there's so many different moving parts. And obviously, all of these guys are going to be bought into Coach Prime's culture. Otherwise, they wouldn't have come there. But all these guys are going to have, I won't say bad habits, but they're going to be have habits or mindsets of what happens when they're losing or when something doesn't go their way. So, say a certain transfer doesn't start right away. Does he kind of not quit the team, but does he kind of like give up if the team loses a few games straight? Like they have a tough stretch where they play USC and Oregon and someone Arizona State, for example. If they lose those three straight, is the team still bought in? I think we'll see how strong Coach Prime's culture is. I think his culture is immensely strong, and I don't think it should be an issue. But that's going to be something to look out for. Are guys dashing as soon as things get hard? Because I think we all know, while there are a lot of high expectations and hopes for this team, I think things could get hard this upcoming season. So that's a concern of mine. Rushing the quarterback. Outside of Jordan Domineck, there's not really a proven pass rusher on this roster. Jordan Domineck had 7.5 sacks last year. Shane Cokes at Dartmouth had 3.5, and then Taj Alston had 2 sacks at West Virginia. Outside of that, I feel like getting to the quarterback is going to be a must this year. You got Caleb Williams on the schedule, Bo Nix, whoever UCLA throws out, whoever, Cam Rising at Utah. I just feel like getting pressure on these quarterbacks is going to be crucial to the success of the defense. And it's also going to be crucial to the success of the team. Obviously, if quarterbacks are back there and they're just having all the time in the world to throw, or if like Jeff Sims from Nebraska, who's a very dynamic athlete, gets under pressure and takes off and they can't contain him, then he's going to run for like 150 yards. Same thing with containing DJ Uyunglele, Cam Ward. Like they have to get to these quarterbacks and they have to bring them down. There's a difference between quarterback pressures and quarterback sacks. Quarterback pressures are cool and all, but quarterback pressures don't always equate to the production that you would hope for. And so those are my 3 concerns for the Colorado Buffs this upcoming season. Also, backup quarterback situation is still very murky. Not saying that what if Shedeur Sanders, God forbid, gets hurt? Then they're throwing in, I don't know if I'm confident in whoever's behind him, whether it's Staub or someone else or Case and Wiseman. Like you're going to be relying on someone young. I would have liked to see them go and get a quarterback transfer out of the portal, but obviously most quarterbacks, especially a quarterback, don't want to sign up to be a backup. It's just how it works. It's just the name of the game. Nobody purposely goes to a school to not play. And so I think outside of a name like Paul Tyson, who went to Clemson, knowingly that he's not going to be starting over Cade Klubnik after a stint at Alabama and Arizona State, I feel like there's not many guys out there that are willing to do that. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But before we move on, if you're looking for a delicious snack, but you don't want all the sugar and calories, and you want to make healthier snack choices, you got to try Built Bars and Built Puffs. Built Bars are healthy and taste amazing. Seriously, they taste so amazing you won't think they're good for you. You got to try this. What makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they're all covered in 100% real dark chocolate, excuse me. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and cookies and cream. Not sure if Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And that's what's even better, is they are healthy, only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, with a whopping 17 grams of protein. If you want them and you don't want to go to built.com like we've been telling you guys in the past, now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club, while you get your specialty flavors still at built.com. So head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate bar, or coconut puff. If you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter puff and churro puff. You can thank me later. Okay. So we talked about my biggest concerns. I said 3, threw in a bonus 1 or 4 there, just because that's one that I just don't know if they're going to be able to fix unless they can find a quarterback who's willing to like be a backup, because Shedeur Sanders is there for this year and probably the next year. So you got to find someone who's willing to kind of just know that they're not going to play and just be there for depth. And most guys don't want to do that, especially if they're in the transfer portal. They want playing time. So I was scrolling on Instagram, as one does when they are slightly bored, and I came across early week 1 predictions by 24/7 Sports. So they had all the week 1 games, so Clemson and Duke, Ohio State and Indiana, Boise State, Washington, West Virginia, Penn State, Louisville, Georgia Tech, Florida, Utah, and they had, of course, Colorado at TCU. I talked about it yesterday. TCU are currently 23.5-point favorites to win. They're 23.5-point favorites over Colorado, which I think is a very high number. I feel like Colorado's going to keep it. If Colorado loses that game, it's going to be much closer than that. That's why I would have recommended, if I was a betting man, to probably take the Buffs to cover on that. But they didn't really give an explanation, unless, let's see. Because here's the thing. I think a lot of people are bought into that TCU is going to run it back, and it's going to be just the same as last year. But honestly, I don't think their team's going to be nearly as good as last year. They don't have. Okay, I wish they had some explanations for it, but they don't. So I'll give you an explanation as to why. I think they're doubting Coach Prime. I think they're doubting the hodgepodge of transfers he's brought together. I think they're in most people's mindsets, they're looking at the fact that they come from FCS schools, group of 5 schools, and some of them haven't played that much, which is very much a factor. But they do have a lot of depth now, which is something that was the main criticism of Colorado about a month ago, was that they didn't have any depth. Now they have some depth, and I think now analysts, people who talking heads as myself, I think they're just more so worried about the lack of playing time and production from the transfers they're getting. They landed 3 wide receiver transfers in a week, and I think they barely combined to surpass 200 yards receiving. Defensive line wise, they brought in multiple transfers that have single digit tackles on their career. So I think people are more so skeptical about how good this team could be. TCU, though, similar situation, kind of. They were able to hit the transfer portal hard, and they were able to, while they didn't bring in as many transfers as Colorado, they brought in some quality ones, which, I mean, quality is always great. They have a quarterback situation with Chandler Morris, who I was reminded yesterday, most teams were more afraid of him than Max Duggan, which is kind of surprising to me because Max Duggan had proven himself in the Big 12 a little bit. He just had some inconsistencies, and then last year obviously played really well. They lost their quarterback. They lost their 2 best running backs. They lost their 3 leading receivers. They have other good receivers. They landed some in the portal, John Paul Richardson from Oklahoma State, and then JoJo Earl from Alabama. So they replaced these guys. It's just we don't know how good they're going to be for the most part. I think it all comes down to their quarterback situation and if they could rush the quarterback, because they lost 60% of their sack production in 2 guys last season. So I feel like this Colorado TCU matchup is going to be closer than people want to give it credit for. If I'm wrong, I'll gladly admit I'm wrong, but we'll know once we get to September 2nd. And I don't think, I mean, I feel like obviously Colorado's going to cover the 23.5. I feel like that's a ridiculous line. I would take that bet in a heartbeat, but I don't think TCU is going to blow them out of the water. I just feel like they have a lot of moving pieces too. Colorado's got the more experienced quarterback. They have playmakers like Travis Hunter and Jimmy Horn and Xavier Weaver, who are slightly more proven. Defensively, again, if they could get to the quarterback, Colorado should be fine. If they can't get to Chandler Morris and he has time to throw, or if they get him out of the pocket and he's just running all over the place, then it's going to be tough for Colorado. But I guess only time will tell on that one. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Let me know in the comments. Are you guys taking Colorado to cover? Colorado win outright? Whatever it may be, just let me know in the comments, and I will kind of divulge and discuss that on another day. Before we move on, again, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Buffs your first listen every day. Everydayers. It's what I call my everyday listeners now. I gave you guys a cool nickname because I see a lot of your guys' support, and I appreciate your support. Make sure to comment some questions. Make sure to comment what you guys would like to discuss, and I could do like a mailbag thing. I have guests coming up. CBS Sports' Shehan Jayaraja will be joining the show next week. Some big guests coming up. So let me know what you want me to talk about, because we're getting to that point in the year where stuff stops happening. So the more stuff that you guys give me to talk about, the better for both of us. Okay. As I talked about on a prior show, Colorado's win total odds were released, and so were the rest of the Pac-12s. So I kind of want to go over them and discuss maybe some, I don't know, maybe some bets that I would take, some that I wouldn't. So if you're watching me on YouTube, I'm going to put this on the screen. Don't worry if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, wherever you get your podcast, because I will read them out and I will be discussing them. I just have a nice little graphic that one of our hardworking graphics people made, so I wanted to use that. Okay, so here we go. you'll see me disappear, but obviously I'm still here. Okay, we got the win total for every Pac-12 team. Starting from the bottom, Colorado is at 3.5 with Stanford. Those two programs have the lowest odds at 3.5. Arizona's at 4.5. Cal 4.5. Arizona State 4.5. Washington State 6.5. Oregon State 8.5. Utah 8.5. UCLA 8.5. Washington 9.5. Oregon same. USC same. So I'm gonna start from the top and I'll work my way, or I'm gonna start from the bottom and work my way to the top. Colorado, I would take the over. Winnable games, I think I look at Colorado State, Nebraska, Arizona State, Stanford. That's 4 right there. I talked about it yesterday. They could hit their 4 wins by Halloween. And that's not including maybe the team just is actually good. Like I feel like people are just expecting them to be a bottom of the barrel Pac-12 team. Maybe they connect really well. They intertwine. They're dealing with adversity well. The running game is stronger than I expected. And maybe they're just hitting on all cylinders. Stanford 3.5. This one's tough. I cover Stanford as well. I think winnable games, they have Hawaii, Sacramento State. Depending on how good Colorado is, maybe that's a winnable game for them. They do too get to play Arizona. 4 games seems like a lot. I don't trust their quarterbacks right now. I'd probably go under. Arizona, I'd take the over. I think they're a bowl caliber team. 4.5 wins. I think they could easily make a bowl game. Cal, 4.5. Oof. I don't trust their quarterback situation. I'd probably go under on them. Arizona State, they have 8 home games, which they still play all the difficult teams in the conference. So that could be tough. But they have, honestly, I feel like they're continuing to get better. They just landed Jordan Tyson the other day, a receiver. So they're going to be improved. Washington State, 6.5. I'm taking the over. They made a bowl game last year, had 7 wins. I think that's a good win total for them. And I think they'll make the bowl game as long as Cam Ward steps up, takes that next stride. Oregon State, 8.5. I personally think Oregon State's making it to the Pac-12 championship, so slamming the over on that. Utah at 8.5. I think this is a different Utah team than we've seen in years past. I'm going to take the over here, but I do think that they're going to be not contending for the Pac-12 championship. I just think they'll be at a solid 9 wins, but most of their losses will come in Pac-12 play. UCLA, I'm taking the under at 8.5. I don't trust their quarterback situation until I see Dante Moore or Colin Schlee play. I'm going to doubt them. Washington, over 9.5 wins. I think they could do that. Oregon, under 9.5. And then USC, I think they will hit over the 9.5 as well. So let me know what you guys think about my over-unders, and we'll discuss those in the comment sections because I'm sure you guys all have strong opinions about them. But yeah, I do think in terms of like the teams that I think are the biggest locks, I think Colorado for sure, Washington, Oregon State, and USC. I think those 4 are my biggest locks, and Arizona. I feel like 4.5 is low. I feel like unless Jaden DeLora is suspended for his off the field issues that have kind of emerged over the past few days, I feel like all those are my locks. The other ones are very iffy. I don't trust. It's hard to trust Oregon with. Okay, here's the thing. Bo Nix is good. Bo Nix is good with Kenny Dillingham calling the plays. He has 2 years with him and 2 years without him. The 2 years without him, his numbers outside of the year where he got injured, so we won't know how good he was going to end up being, weren't nearly as good. The 2 years with him, he's all world. So it's like, how good can he be without Kenny Dillingham's presence? I don't know. Stanford, I feel bad for Stanford because I think the thing is, if there was a team to surprise us and hit their over despite not being the one I picked, I'm going to pull back up right here. Stanford right here, bottom right, 3.5. Troy Taylor is an offensive guru. Like he is an offensive guru. He knows how to get people open. He knows how to get the ball in the hands of his playmakers. If they would be the team where it's like, if they surpassed ours, I'd be like, I'm not shocked. I just wasn't confident enough to bet on them, kind of thing. Same thing with Arizona. I feel like I said I was confident in them. Utah, I feel like I'm just not. I don't trust the teams that decide to run it back. And Cam Rising decided to run it back after an injury. Are they going to have the weapons? Are they going to have the same sort of offense? Is their defense going to be as tough? I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be tough to see. But that has been my little Pac-12 betting sesh. If you guys want to discuss anything in the comments, let me know. I'd love to go over some over-unders with you guys, or maybe some bets, whether it's the Heisman, future Heisman odds, whatever it may be. I just want to thank you guys for making Locked On Buffs your first listen every day. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Monday's episode, we're probably going to be talking about some transfers. Hopefully by then, Colorado's landed a notable transfer running back. Obviously, like I said, Shehan Jayaraja from CBS Sports is going to be joining the show next week. So we have a lot of action-packed episodes coming up. I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Buffs your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get your podcast, on YouTube. On listening platforms, make sure to give us 5 stars. On YouTube, make sure to subscribe. I'd like to see that subscriber count continue to grow. We're inching towards the goal of 10,000 by the regular season. Not sure if that's going to happen. Hopefully that does. We got some player interviews coming up, so maybe that'll help. But I appreciate you guys, and you guys have a great Friday and a great weekend as well.